Product research is difficult enough trying to find good, viable products while avoiding bad ones. And although there's never a way to get rid of risk completely, the idea is to mitigate as much risk as possible. So in this video, I'll show you example products that beginners thought were good, but actually ended up being bad products. And I'll explain the main reasons why. And make sure you stick around until the end. I'll share with you a comprehensive list of bad products that I've put together that beginners have been caught out with. But first, my name is Crescent, and if this is our first time meeting, welcome to my channel. My passion is sharing tips and strategies on how you can create a successful Amazon FBA private label business. So if you enjoy videos like this, or especially if you've been around my channel, consider subscribing. All right, let's get started. So the examples of bad products I'm going to show you here are just a small sample of the countless list of bad products that beginners have unfortunately jumped in on. I'm sure a lot of you are going to recognize these bad products from your own product research, and hopefully if you're looking at getting into these niches, this video will save you from making a bad decision. So there are 4 main factors where a product may look good but end up being bad. All right, and the first factor is differentiation. You must find a method that differentiates based on a benefit or a feature and not something that's subjective, and I'll give you examples of what I mean. Now, first up is a product that you probably recognize, and that's the letterboard. Now, if you do a search and you look at the photos of all of the search results, you'll notice that they all look the same. There's nothing differentiating one seller's product from another. So when you're figuring out a way to differentiate, you also have to figure out how you're going to communicate that differentiation to the buyer. And the best way is through the photo. And as you can see, none of these sellers have a really good way that separates their listing from everybody else's. You'll see that some of them have a bag or different sizes, but you can't really tell from just looking at the photo that there's anything special or different than the other listings. This one here, for example, comes with a stand. Same with this one. But other than that, they all look the same. All right, maybe this one has a different background. You can see it's blue instead of black. So one of the best ways to differentiate is through your listing. And if you can communicate that differentiation through the photo and not look the same as everybody else's, as you can see in the letterboard niche. Everybody's got the same board with the same stand and a bag. Next up is garden Clog gloves, which you'll probably recognize as well, as a lot of people got into this and ended up being a bad product. And again, if you look at the search results, you'll notice right away that they all look the same, just like the letterboards, okay? Just from the photos alone, you can tell there's really no differentiation from one seller to the next. And it's so important here that you differentiate based on something that adds value, a benefit or a feature. And again, not something subjective. So you'll notice here, there's a couple people that have differentiated based on quantity, okay? Like this person has a 4-pack and this person has a 2-pack. Now you have to ask yourself, as a buyer for this specific product, is having 2 or 4 of these beneficial to you? If I'm gardening, I don't have 4 hands or 8 hands, so I don't need 2 pairs or 4 pairs, right? In my opinion, having multiple pairs isn't a really good way to differentiate, all right? And secondarily, you'll notice that some of these have different colors, all right? Color is something subjective. So that's also, in my opinion, not a very good way to differentiate unless you can find evidence, for example, in the reviews, that there's people wanting different colors. So the reason why it's subjective is if someone doesn't like the color that you've chosen, then they're never going to buy your product. That's why you need to keep your differentiation based on features and benefits. For example, if we're talking about these claw gloves, if your claw was more efficient at digging up dirt, that is a benefit. Or it kept your hands warm when it's cold outside. Things like this are benefits or features and not something subjective. And now the other option is to bundle this with something else. And you got to understand the activity of gardening, what would go well with this product. So in my opinion, it would be a gardening tool, for example. But when you're bundling, you don't want to bundle 2 main products together. the secondary item, the bonus item, should be a small additional bonus product, okay? And you'll notice if you scroll down that, for example, this seller has a garden hose and a spray nozzle, and they're bundling it with the garden gloves. And in this case, the garden gloves is the bonus item. It's actually the other way around, which is why they're able to charge so much. Okay, so you need to be aware of the products that you're bundling together, that they pair well, and that you're not adding additional cost that the buyer potentially doesn't want to pay extra for. And next is the posture corrector. And a lot of people have getting into this product recently. And the problem with this one, in my opinion, is it's very difficult to differentiate. For me, if I find a product where the numbers look good, but I can't find a way to differentiate it, then I'll back burner it or pass on the product altogether. So regardless how good the numbers are, if you can't find a way to differentiate, it may not be a wise decision. And in this case, in my opinion, it's hard to find a way to differentiate this because there's no way to differentiate based on color. There's nothing you can really add to bundle with this product that I can think of anyway. So there's no smart way to differentiate this. And as you can tell, all the photos look the same, and there's not really anything anybody else is doing here already to differentiate themselves from the other sellers. And the reason why I don't think color is a good way to differentiate in this niche is because this isn't a fashion item where color makes a big difference. And one more product I want to show you for differentiation is these squishies. And a lot of people have gotten into this one. And in my opinion, it's very difficult to differentiate this because everything everybody's been trying to do is subjective. And what they're doing is they're bundling different types of squishies with the product. Now, it's one thing to differentiate based on quantity because the buyer is getting more for their money. But by adding different types of squishies is subjective, because if the person doesn't necessarily like what you've included, as in the extra squishies, it's not going to entice them to buy your specific product. For example, this one has a whole bunch of different types of animals, and this one looks like the same but different animals, and same as this one. These three all look the same but have different unique products that are in them. So unless I specifically like what you are offering here, I'm not going to buy from you. It's too subjective. So if you're going to differentiate, make sure it's based on something of value. All right, and the next reason why people are getting into failing products is because they're either patented, trademarked, or competing with major brands. Now, you've probably seen this product because a lot of people use this as an example, and it was a very popular item that beginners were selling. And the problem here is that the Jungle Scout data looks really good. Okay, look at the sales and the reviews. Obviously now it's a little bit higher than a year ago, but if you got into it a year ago, your listing would have been shut down. And the reason again is because there's a patent on it. Now, if you do a search on Google Patents, it's going to pull up this salad bowl cutter patent. And if you click on the download PDF, it's going to pull up the actual patent. And you can see here that this is the exact product that's being sold on Amazon. And if we go back to the actual patent, you can see that it was granted in 2018. Now, another example of people getting into trouble is just looking at the data and not realizing who they're competing with. And this example is with duct tape. Now, if we look at the numbers, again, a year ago, the competition was far less. You can see that the sales is really good. Now, if you jumped into this, you would have been competing with some major brands, which is a no-no. So Duck is a major brand. So is Gorilla, okay? And you can see that they are dominating this niche, okay? So it's brand dominated, and not just brand dominated by a private label, but brand dominated by a major brand. So you gotta be aware of who you're competing with. Now, another important factor that are getting beginners in trouble is not realizing the market saturation. And that's where the data during product research might look good, but once the product launches a few months later, it ends up being a saturated market, so the product doesn't sell well. So how can you tell if a potential product that you're looking at is going to be saturated? All right, so one example I'm going to use is the letterboards, which we all know is a bad product because it's saturated. Now, one way you can tell if a market is saturated is by seeing how well the market has been able to sustain the price. Now, if the price point has been pushed down over time, then you know that it's been saturated by the competition. So if we look at the older listings in a market and the price started off high and over time has been pushed down, then we know it's saturated. Okay, so if we look at the Jungle Scout data and we focus on the listings that have been around for a while, the older listings, and they generally have the higher reviews, we can click on the price here and we can see that over time the price has been driven down. And we'll look at the next one. Same, the price started off high and it's been driven down. Same with this one, over time it's been driven down. Same with this one. Same with this one. And same with this one. All right. Now, if it wasn't saturated, the price should remain fairly constant. All right. And a second way you can tell if a market is saturated or is going to be saturated is to look at the age of the listings. So in this example, I'm going to show you the posture corrector, which is a niche that a lot of beginners are getting into recently. And this is a bad product to jump in on. Okay. And here's why. So again, you do a search for posture corrector and then load the Jungle Scout Chrome extension and then open the top 10 listings in their own window. Now what you're going to do is go back to the first listing and using a Chrome extension called Keepa, this window is going to load here and it's going to show you the number of days that this listing has been active. Now, if there's a majority of listings in this niche that are new, which is 90 to 120 days, let's just say, I would consider those new listings. So go ahead and count how many are new. So this one is 252. Here's a new one. There's one. Okay. Keep going. An old one. Old one. Here's one, there's two. Here's three. Here's four. So you can already see just out of the top 10, 40% of them are brand new listings. So I would be super cautious getting into this market because a whole bunch of new sellers have jumped in already. So this is an indication that this market is going to be saturated or already is saturated. And now finally, the most important factor where beginners are getting in trouble and thinking they have a good product when in fact it's not, is using the incorrect keyword when they're doing product research. I'll show an example here. Now, I've seen a few beginners getting in on this product and it's the silicone placemats. Now, if we do a search on Amazon, you'll see that these are the silicone placemats. And if we look at the Jungle Scout data, you can see that the numbers look pretty good. The price point is over $15, sales volume is excellent, and the reviews aren't that high. The competition is actually pretty low. All right, so this, from this standpoint, looks like a viable product. But here's the problem. Silicone placemats isn't the correct keywords to do product research on for this niche. Placemats is. If we do a search for placemats, you'll notice that these are similar products. And again, if we do the Jungle Scout data, suddenly you'll see that the reviews, the competition is through the roof. And we can verify this using Keyword Scout from Jungle Scout. So if we come over here and do a search for placemat, you'll see that placemats is the #1 search term. It's the most popular. And silicone placemats is considerably less search volume, which is why the data looks so much better. Okay, so you got to be aware that you're using the correct keywords so you don't get yourself in trouble and you're looking at incorrect data. Let me know in the comments if you've been caught out with a product that looked good originally and what you learned from your mistake. So I've covered a few bad products in this video, but if you'd like to see the entire list of bad products that I've put together, I've put a link in the description for you to download. All right, thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, you know what to do. Hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And to make sure you never miss a video, click that bell icon to turn on notifications. There's also a link in the description to our community forums, which you should totally join. And if you're looking for more tips and strategy videos, click or tap over here. And as always, thanks for watching.